Hello, and welcome to Productivity for Solopreneurs Live, where each week I share on a topic relating to getting things done. So, insights to getting things done. So, today is live number 96, and the topic today is when is it time to unsubscribe? So, let me know you're here. Say hi in the comments below. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Evie Burke, and I help women entrepreneurs who want to take their productivity to a new level. So they're overwhelmed and exhausted and probably a little bit stressed out by everything that they want to accomplish in their business, but they're not interested or able to put 9 to 12 hours in their day, or put 9 to 12, do 9 to 12-hour days. There we go. So I help them create solutions for getting all of the important things done that they want to get done in their business so they can grow their business with confidence and be completely present when they're not working with the people that they love. So, have you ever been surprised with the realization that you're wasting time? I know this happened to me last month. So let me start by saying that I love podcasts. Like, podcasts are just so much fun for me. I listen to all different sorts of them. I listen to fun ones, I listen to educational ones, I listen to business type ones, and they are just a great way for me to pass time, whether I'm in the car driving, doing just tasks around the house, or whatever it might be. I just find a lot of joy in listening to podcasts. So last month, I subscribed to a number of new to me podcasts, and most of them were in the business, or entrepreneurial space, right? So I was looking specifically for ones around business that I could subscribe to. And what was interesting is I found myself having the thought of, will the host please just wrap this topic up and end the podcast already? I want to get to the next podcast. But I kept listening. I thought, okay, well, I subscribed to this one. Let me listen all the way through. And then I realized a pattern. So there were two, maybe to four, I'm not sure exactly how many of them, of these new podcasts that I had this thought about for almost every episode that I listened to, because I didn't just like subscribe. I grabbed a couple of the older, you know, couple of weeks before episodes so I could have a few to listen to. And there were some that they just didn't mesh with me. Like, they just weren't interesting to me, or the person who was hosting it just wasn't my person, because not everybody's your person, or maybe I'm not her person, however you want to look at that. And so I started to go through and unsubscribe, because why stay subscribed to something that I'm thinking, will the host please wrap it up so I can get to the next episode or the next podcast that isn't this one, right? So I unsubscribed. And then I realized that I was doing something else. So the podcast that I did listen to that I did really like, I would listen to absolutely every episode. And there's still some podcasts that I will just listen to every episode. But what I realized was there were some that were, teaching something that didn't apply to me. So there's one podcast, there's a couple of them that I listen to, where they do 4 to 7 minute podcast episodes every weekday. And they're covering, the things that they're doing to be successful. They're teaching you, just very briefly, what you could do in different spaces. And I realized that some of them don't apply to me. Excuse me. Maybe they'll apply to me later, but why listen to them now, right? I don't need to know this information now. And for most of the things that they're talking about, in 6 months or a year, the way that platform or that thing that they're talking about works, it might completely change. So I just started to go through and look at the topics and just start deleting them off of my saved or my downloaded list, because I didn't need to listen to them. And then this led to me going through my email and realizing that there are some newsletters from people that I like but I don't open them. I just see them and I delete them. I don't open them, I don't read them. And that was another thing. Was like, you know what? It's time to unsubscribe. So I went in and I unsubscribed. Now, unsubscribing from those emails probably didn't save me a huge amount of time, but it did make going through my email faster. And it's the difference between having, 10 unread messages and having 15 unread messages. So it just takes up a different amount of mental space or mental heaviness, right? It's a lot easier to go through 10 emails than it is to go through 15. And if for some reason there's been like 3 or 4 days where I haven't gotten to my email, it's a lot easier to go through 30 emails than it is to go through 45 emails, right? So unsubscribing again might not have saved me a lot of time, but it saved me some mental space. So the thing that's going to have the most lasting effect on my time, though, is unsubscribing to those podcasts that I didn't love. Because that's just hours of my week that I get back. And then the other thing is, the other thing that will make a difference is giving myself permission not to listen to absolutely every episode of a podcast that I like, right? So there are some where, they're teaching history, or there's a mythology one that I listen to that I probably will listen to absolutely every episode that they do. But I don't have to. Like there's a history one that I listen to where sometimes they're covering topics I just don't care about, like the history of fashion. That I listen to it and I'm like, I have no idea, so I just skip it. Go to the next one. So that's going to save me time in my week too, right? When I can identify which ones I don't want to listen to and can just move on. So, but the commonality between all of these things was there was a criteria that went into why am I unsubscribing. And so when it comes to a podcast, right? If I'm not interested in the subject, or I'm finding the host boring, or I don't like them, then that's pretty easy criteria, right? When I'm unsubscribing from emails that I never open, that criteria is pretty obvious. But then there's the criteria of things that I don't need to know right now. And knowing what those things are can be a little difficult because we can get ourselves caught in this cycle of, oh, so I'm not focused on SEO right now, but I should really learn about SEO so that I can, have that in my back pocket and go through and tweak all my blog posts later. Or I'm not using Instagram right now, but I should learn, the best way to learn Instagram, because then if I go and I do it later, then I have that information. And those are things that aren't on my plan to do. But if you don't have that plan, it's hard to know how to let some things go, right? So the criteria here is being very clear on my intentions and my goals and what my tasks are right now in my business. So another way to say this is you need to know what you're focusing on in your business right now. So these are things like, marketing messages, Facebook presence. For me, Facebook presence, my weekly lives, the weekly newsletter, networking, and those are the focuses right now. So some of those things fall into larger categories like receiving client activities. And I'm clear what I'm doing for receiving new client activities. And I know what other things that might fall into that category I'm not focusing on, right? So what that means is things that aren't in those categories, whether they're email, podcast episodes, or other information, like I can ignore those things because they're not in those categories. So if I'm subscribing to a newsletter that I think is kind of interesting, but it doesn't really align with anything, then maybe I let it go, right? It's going back to those podcast episodes where if I know I'm not focused, and I have no plans to focus on an Instagram presence, and it doesn't make sense to learn about Instagram, right? So when you know what you're focused on, when you know what your goals are, you know what you can easily say no to. And that can free up so much time and mental space that it's really great, because then we're not looking at what webinars are we missing or what other things should I be trying to learn about. We're very focused on, this is the path that I'm on right now, and I'm just going to stay on that path. So there is a way that I see people getting slipped up around this, right? So people will sometimes say, my goal is to make X amount of money a month. And so that's their criteria for yes or no. Is it going to help them make X amount of money a month? And that's too broad, because there's any number of things that you could do to make money each month, right? So what happens when you have that really broad things, your criteria for yes and no, is you start saying yes to things that you don't need to say yes to. So, somebody's saying, oh, if you do this thing, then you can make more money. So you start doing that thing. And then somebody says, oh, and if you do this, you can start making more money. So then you start doing that. But you're not really doing either of them great. And then you're not doing the things that you already know are tried and true methods for you to make money, because you're off focusing on these new things because it fits in that criteria. But your criteria is too broad. So your intention is to make X amount of money this month. And your goals for this month are the specific ways that you're going to meet that intention. So the specific ways you're going to make that money, whether it's networking, speaking, a new program launch, like whatever it is, like the things that you're already planning, like these are the things I'm going to do to make the money this month. And that's the path that I'm on, right? And then once you know those specific things, then maybe, one of those things is networking, and you see somebody's doing one of the podcasts that you listen to regularly has an has a guest on that's an expert networker and how to find people that are a good fit for your business without being salesy is, one of their topics. You're like, yes, totally up my alley, gonna listen to that, right? And then you see that maybe next week they're doing an episode with somebody who is like Instagram, like has that locked down. They know how to use it. You're like, yeah, maybe not. I'm not using Instagram. That's not my focus this month. Let that one go. Okay. So when you have those specific things to focus on, that can really help you with that criteria of which emails to unsubscribe to, which podcasts to delete, what things you can ignore so that you have more time for the things that you really want to be getting done for the month. So the specific, just to reiterate, the specific way that you're reaching that intention is the focus, right? And so when you know that focus, it allows you to trim some of those other things away or put them on your later list. So if you need some help clarifying what your intentions or your goals are that will result in the outcomes that you want in your business, then I have a couple of spots next week for one-on-one sessions. So comment below with the number 1 if you're interested in that, or if you'd like to learn more about it. So that was live number 96 on Is It Time to Unsubscribe? So know your focus. Until next week, much love.